Sup guys, welcome to the Passive Income Player channel. So basically, today I'm talking about upskilling and how AI is taking place in the job market. So I've been talking to some of my CEO friends and one of my doctor friends and just seeing what have been their thoughts on like Tesla and SpaceX and AI. And I'm gonna tell you a story along with like some of the things like I heard people saying, which is I think is kind of crazy. So I was talking to this one guy who owns a tech HRE company, and I was asking him some stuff like what he's doing towards AI in his company, and he was talking about using Claude and Codex and just really basing off what it can do. But he was saying the main thing for him, I guess, as the CEO, is which AI tool was he the most familiar with. So I think he was just telling me mostly Codex. He was telling me a bunch of AI tools, and I was like asking his favorite. He was using multiple, but I think the main one he was telling me about was Codex, and he was just, oh, because ChatGPT was the first, and that was like his introductory to AI. So he was like more used to the ChatGPT stack, even though, and he was like telling me my CTO, he went to MIT and has a master's in computer science, and this is what he does and all that. And I was asking really more his opinion on like what he thinks Cursor is going to do for his AI and how he's gonna use it in his job. I think he's still trying to figure out more the front end applications because it seems to be, at least from what I gathered from the conversation, is he's looking to decrease head count on the C-suite level as opposed to layoffs. But it seems like he wants to keep his CTO, which makes sense. Like the tech one is tough to like outsource or replace on your own. And then there is tech debt, which basically is the time you're putting in to design this application. So I see that and I'm like, interesting. And some of the stuff Musk is up to, and he was mostly just talking about the ideas on either looking at Tesla stock when it goes lower and a more buying opportunity, or looking at getting a cyber cab. But me personally, I was telling him I think the valuation on SpaceX around July 2026, I think it's kind of high personally. And I'm hoping SpaceX might go down, but you don't really get voting power in it, and it still is not making money despite the businesses made up in it. And there is a huge amount of controversy around it, but I do see it being a very valuable company in the future. But I don't know right now at the valuations. I really can't say. I just feel the valuation is really high, but I feel more people will take up using Cursor and these AI coding agents so that they can make their own software, like my CEO friend. One of the things all these guys were talking about, though, was understanding not only your tech stack, but understanding how you're creating your own luck. When I say creating your own luck, I mean, what are you doing to take yourself forward in the next step of things? How are you preparing yourself for the next move. We kind of made it a saying at our hangout is that luck is when opportunity meets everyday preparation. To get lucky, you have to be working hard and putting in the preparation every day for something to work. So you just can't rely on an AI tool to do this or do that. You have to know what you're doing. Like the same CEO guy who's talking about cutting all his C-suite headcount minus his CTO. He was talking about his CMO, the chief marketing officer, the COO, the chief operating officer, and the CFO, the chief finance officer. Those are somewhat easy to replace, and I could see those being like the first C-suite hit by like AI downsizing. But he was basically saying, apart from like knowing who to cut, part of his CEO job is making sure outcomes happen and that the outcomes align with the company's vision. And it's interesting when you think like how being a CEO, you basically almost have to be delusional sometimes about what your company is going to do, how big it is, or the growth of it. And I've seen this even in content creators, like in success in general. It's crazy how a couple of years ago, someone would have said you would have been crazy to be replacing like C-suite level people with AI. But that's the things like people are talking about. And I guess the other part of a CEO's job is making sure the company's stock price is doing well. So I guess making sure the market views it in like good company valuation. But I think mostly just like knowing outcomes and handling the fires was the main thing this guy is saying was the skill in handling his C-suite. And I don't know how people are doing that. I mean, viewing that, but pretty soon that's going to become more and more of the commonplace thing. They call it solarpreneurs. Like some people don't even have a CTO. Like I think that's pretty smart of my friend that he has a CTO and he's like, yeah, this guy is worth his weight in gold. And I'm like, are more people going to get into solopreneur opportunities? I think AI is definitely helpful in figuring out your skill, figuring out how you can design an asset so you don't have to worry about being on the wrong side of AI layoffs, which basically that's how I've been looking at it. Unless you're at the tippity top, like my friend, like the top line of deciding what the organization does, you're on the chopping block. That's the nature of business and what I learned in business school, that unfortunately employees are an expense. And that's something that boss man sometimes doesn't like doing, but sometimes he has to. But I will say, some of these CEOs are crazy. Some of them, when you've been around them long enough, it's like some of it kind of makes sense. Other times of it, it's like you're crazy because of ego. I was talking to this one guy who owns a restaurant, and basically he was talking about how he does his staff so well with equity and this pay. And I'm like, dude, the way he was talking, he was making SpaceX. And it was like one or two restaurants. Like decently, I would say they were kind of upscale, but it's not like anything you would write home about. This guy was acting like he was like giving his employees generational wealth or something. And I'm like, dude, can your employees get a car? Can they get an apartment? I felt like I was trying to explain to him his turnover rate because he was talking about, ooh, if I can just get this person back or fire this or do something with the staff. And I'm like, dude, you're acting like some military officer and you're not giving people the value for that. And that's something you have to understand. You can understand your dream, but you have to understand where do you fit in it at. Can you be passionate about it? Yes. But I would say the passion needs to often match the result. Because I was telling him, dude, if you go look at the applications of a tech company like NVIDIA or Google or whatever, they have no problem getting in tons of applications. It's that you're not giving your people what you think you're giving them. And I was like trying to tell him, as an owner, giving your staff equity in your company is good, but you have to understand they can't take that equity to the grocery store. And like any business, just like with Elon Musk's SpaceX, it could be years before they see some sort of liquidity event that gives them money. And that's a if. That's also an if. It could be if years. And I just feel that may become a thing soon. As people become more solarpreneurs, they'll gravitate to their own asset class and figure out if they like making art or content or certain services. And I don't know, AI might become some sort of supplemental thing, but I definitely see more and more people taking advantage of it. I'll see you guys later.